From Hollywood to Capitol Hill, more and more women are coming forward accusing prominent men of sexual harassment and sexual assault. And Texas hasn't escaped this wave. In today's Texas This Week, we sit down with an editor from our news partners at the Texas Tribune to discuss their investigation into claims of sexual assault at the Texas Capitol. A lot happens under this dome. Much of it ends up in the news or on a blog, but there's some bad behavior that no one talks about until now. Online news organization The Daily Beast revealed women working in the Texas Capitol have a spreadsheet called the Burn Book of Bad Men, a list of 38 men, lawmakers, and staffers who have been inappropriate. And our news partners at the Texas Tribune also looked into claims of sexual assault at the Capitol. We traveled to the Texas Tribune newsroom to talk with political editor Aman Bathija about their investigation. Tell me, what prompted you all to do this investigation and this piece?
After the New York Times and New Yorker reported on Harvey Weinstein, there was a wave of sexual harassment allegations and stories from state houses around the country. And we had heard stories in Texas for years, and we thought this was a good time to explore it more in depth. And
talk to me about what exactly you found.
Well, we talked to over 24 current and former lawmakers and staffers in the Capitol, and we found that sexual harassment is rampant there. We've found numerous anecdotes of women dealing with groping, inappropriate comments, and worse in the past few years. And what we found is that these victims don't really have any recourse in the Capitol. There is a way to complain about such actions, but both in the House and Senate, it's not well known and it's not used very much. We checked going back to 2011, and there were 0 complaints filed in both the House and the Senate.
And so when we talk about these actions against these women, who are the perpetrators?
In some cases, they were lawmakers. Other cases, they were just high-ranking officials in different offices. We did not name any names in our coverage that we produced this week.
Tell me about, some of the most outrageous claims that you've heard, or what's the range here?
Well, there was the staffer who was at a party at the end of a legislative session, and a lawmaker took her hand and licked it. There's also former State Senator Wendy Davis, who told us that when she was in the legislature, a member of the House grabbed her breast. And there's also a story of a staffer who told us of a lawmaker who put his hand up her skirt.
What do you think led to this culture at the Capitol where these men think that it's okay for them to do this?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that there is no recourse for these kind of incidents. A lot of the women we spoke with basically told us they felt like their options were either let it go to the police, or quit. So in the Capitol, there just is not a system in place to help these women. There are technically places they can go to complain, but people we spoke with either did not even know that existed, or if they knew it existed, they did not think it was going to help them.
And both chambers have committed to looking into this, looking into their process. Talk to me about that and where that stands right now.
Well, in the House right now, the House Administration Committee handles complaints of sexual harassment. That committee is going to be kind of reevaluating how it handles that and moving forward, and if major changes need to be made. They're also looking at new training. In the Senate, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick has directed the committee there, Senate Administration Committee, to also review their sexual harassment policies.
Do you think that's going to make a difference? Or do these victims think that's going to make a difference?
I think it depends on what recommendations come out of it. From the experts and lawyers we spoke with, what we heard again and again was that there needs to be some sort of independent body that takes the politics out of this. Right now, one reason you might not hear a staffer complain about an incident such as the ones I've mentioned is because they end up thinking about, am I going to put my job in jeopardy? Am I going to destroy the political agenda of my boss? So if lawmakers are the ones handling these complaints that are often against other lawmakers, they're more likely to get swept under the rug.
And they technically can't be fired, right? They're hired by the people.
Well, that is technically true, but district attorney can pursue criminal charges against a lawmaker, and that could force them to resign. So it's not like they are completely without. There are ways to go after lawmakers other than just at the ballot box.
Because we are starting to see more of a cultural shift where people are coming out encouraged that this could possibly change the culture at the Capitol?
I think the fact that both the House and Senate announced plans to reevaluate their policies within 24 hours of our story coming out shows that this really is a moment where the thinking on sexual harassment is shifting. I think if this had happened even a year ago and we put out this story, I don't know if they would have responded so quickly. So I think they are taking this very seriously.
And what's different this time?
I think victims feel emboldened, and so I think the lawmakers feel if we don't address this, we're going to be hearing about it for a long time, and it's not going to stop until we do something. You do have women in power in the legislature. It's still a fairly small number, but it is more than in past years, and they are going to be they are going to be leading the way on this somewhat. Everyone's going to be expecting them to, you know, former lawmakers like Wendy Davis, who spoke on the record about her experience to us, will also be watching this closely, and I think former lawmakers like her will also be kind of will make themselves heard if they don't feel satisfied with how the legislature addresses this.
Perfect. Any follow-ups in the works?
Yes, we are working on some follow-ups. From that first story, we've heard from a lot more victims and are looking into a lot more claims.
Well, the Texas Senate already has a sexual harassment training program in place. Speaker of the House Joe Straus is asking officials to create a similar program for the House by January. That's Texas This Week. Now let's get